welcome back for this week. We're going to do Civil War cosplayers from Denver Comic-Con today, and so I hope you guys enjoy this episode. Also, take note, next week we'll be starting our cosplay contest series. You've already had a taste of that from an episode a few weeks ago, and we're going to have a few more episodes on just how cosplay contests work. If you have any questions, make sure you send them in. Thanks, guys! Welcome to the Cosplay Stitch and Seam. I am at Denver Comic-Con 2018, and this is V-Fire, by the way. I mean, I sound different from Panon, so you should know the difference by now, hopefully. But if not, you know, it's me. Hi. I was a judge for Denver Comic-Con for their cosplay contest craftsmanship judge, and with me I have the Best in Show winners. Would you guys like to introduce yourselves?
Yeah. So collectively we are Tea Time Productions. That's with 2 T's. It stands for Time Travelers Educational Association. My name is Laura, as there are 2 Lauras. I am also Rosie.
I'm Laura number 2. I would rather you not call me Laura number 2. It's not like I wouldn't respond to it. I probably would. But online, you're usually going to find me under the handle of Stellar, any variation thereof. It's probably me, especially if I'm babbling about comic books or writing fan fiction. What? I didn't say that.
And I am the 3rd member of the group. My name is Elise, and I am the ringleader and mastermind designer and producer for the group.
Yeah, you're actually the first member. You were just introduced last as the most important because you needed a vanguard. Like, no, that's not the word. A herald. You needed a herald.
Galactus?
No. Sit down.
So these 3, they are charming, and their cosplays were really amazing. So they did Civil War, as in Avengers Civil War, but I'll let you guys explain, like,
you want to go, Elise?
What you guys did, because it was awesome.
It's a pun, is what it comes down to. So it's Captain America Civil War, but meaning Civil War as in Civil War era. So we did Civil War era day dresses in the style of the characters from Captain America Civil War. So Rosie was Captain America, Stellar was
Iron Man,
and I was the Winter Soldier. So those were kind of our concept pieces that got us Best in Show last night.
So they come in with these dresses, and I'm immediately blown away because they're these big, gorgeous dresses, and also like giving off Civil War era vibes, but also like Civil War movie. And so I got to see behind the scenes and seams, pun, all the puns. Of all their work, and it was amazing. Like, the craftsmanship was amazing, and their choices for everything. So they took this play on words, this pun of Civil War to the max. So would each of you explain kind of like what we did in judging, like why you chose what you did for each character and all that?
Yeah, so you want me to go?
Yeah, let's start with Cap.
So, Elise is actually the mastermind behind all of the design, and, Laura and I, Stellar and I.
We have some design.
We have some input, but,
Iron Man.
We're the apprentices, and Elise is the journeywoman on the way to mastery. But so for
basically master.
So for Cap, in our timeline, Stephanie Rogers was frozen in a Canadian glacier during the Revolutionary War and reawoken in time for the American Civil War. So my gown incorporated elements of several different time periods. So a historical purist would be like, excuse you, why are you wearing these 1770s sleeves with the turned up cuff at your elbow with a elliptical, or with a round 1850s hoop, but you're in 1864, like what? But yeah, it was really cool. So I had a round hoop, which is from the 50s rather than the 60s, and is harkening back to an older style of dress. I'm capped a little behind the times. I also wore what's called a spoon bonnet instead of the more fashionable fanchon bonnet, which Iron Man had, because a fanchon bonnet was not appropriate for church. So Cap had a spoon bonnet with the wings on the side, like from the helmet, that my Tony was kind enough to stitch for me.
Cap's the old lady's church appropriate.
Yeah. You want to talk about Iron Man?
I always love to talk about Iron Man. So Tony's story here, Tony or Tanya, take your pick a nickname here, is that as opposed to being involved somewhere in the Middle East when initially taken captive, Tony was actually involved in the Crimean War. And so that ends up inspiring not only, Tony's daring escape, which results in the building of the Iron Man suit in the first place, but also inspires the look of it. So the blouse was a very common revolutionary style.
It's called the Garibaldi blouse.
Yeah, and it came from Spain, I believe, originally.
Spain and Italy both had revolutionaries that were named after Garibaldi, who was one of the main revolutionaries in Italy, yes.
But it moved all over the place, and so it's something that Tony took with her back to the States as Iron Man. And so we had that going on in the blouse, and then unlike Cap over here, who's super behind, Tony's on the very cutting edge of fashion to the point where there are design features like a open fronted overskirt, which really would not have been around quite yet in 1864. It would have been the equivalent of something you'd see on, Fashion Week. Nobody's wearing this yet, except for Tony, because Tony's Tony. And then also lots of ruffles, a lot of pleating to both bring in the geometry that it needs to be the Iron Man suit, and also because the more ruffles you can put on things, it suggests wealth, and why not show off a little bit?
Yeah, a little bit, Stark. Come on.
You want to talk about your bonnet?
Tony was so extra.
Tony was so extra. you didn't see, but Laura Stellar just did this triumphant arm gesture, ayo.
It was the Nixon peace signs in Iron Man 2. Kind of just happened.
Yeah.
But
your fanchon bonnet.
Yeah, and so I have the fanchon bonnet, which also serves as the mask, because a fanchon bonnet is designed to sit on top of the head, but it can slide down really easily. So you've got the mask up on the bonnet, so it sets atop the head most of the time.
Yep. And then we have our Winter Soldier.
So Winter Soldier
Bad guy.
if you're looking at the fashion history timeline here, we've got Cap, who's kind of stuck a little behind the times, and you've got Tony, who's a little ahead, and we've got Winter Soldier sitting right in the middle. So in this case, Jacqueline Buchanan Barnes was on the run for a couple of years, and so she's kind of trying to keep her fashions up to date so she doesn't stand out in the crowd, but she doesn't exactly have enough to completely redo her wardrobe. So she's got a black overdress, which is one she's had for a while and is constructed actually in the same way that Cap's is. They're pretty identical, but what she's done is she's gotten herself a new silver skirt and hiked it up a little bit to get some of that overskirt look that's starting to come into fashion. She's also got a hat instead of a bonnet, since she's traveling, along with a traveling veil that hides her face, so that way, when you're a wanted person, it's a little easier if you can go around with a bonnet and with a veil over your face.
International wanted man thing.
Yeah,
and she did the raccoon eyes makeup
Yes.
underneath the veil,
Yes,
and it was great.
It looked so good.
And then in terms of decoration, Bucky stays fairly plain. The decoration on the bodice is we did soutache braid, and I did find that braid pattern in a magazine from 1862. And then it was replicated across the bodice to kind of create that strap effect that you see in the Winter Soldier throughout MCU. Is he's got that top jacket that's got the straps, so that kind of
So picture like a faux military jacket that you would buy in Hot Topic, a la Welcome to the Black Parade.
A beautiful, intricate stitching, though, and not in that way that they stuck it on, it's going to peel off. Beautiful, intricate. We were still pulling embroidery paper out of it the morning of con.
I was drooling over the work for that. I was just like, oh, good.
It's beautiful.
So were we. We thought, we were like, oh my god, Bucky's so great now. Bucky was always great, but then it was Bucky is so great.
Side note, during judging, I'm like, keep it cool. Keep it cool.
It's so cool. She kept it
we had no idea.
Yeah, we didn't have any idea.
Afterwards, I run up. I'm like, oh my gosh, guys, I gotta talk to you about all this.
Bucky, talk about your arm and your attachment system.
Yes, we got a little strip tease. I mean,
Cap was okay with that.
But I did the undressing.
You did do the undressing. I'm a lady.
Because I'm the one who fixes the arm.
It's true.
So, in keeping with our 1864 timeline, an arm wouldn't have been permanently attached attached. If you had a prosthetic arm, it would have been kind of strapped on. So in our case, what we did is I took vinyl and I had the chinks in the vinyl, and then it goes further up almost onto my shoulder, and then it has straps that go around across my back and then around onto the other arm that can tie there to keep it in place.
And all those straps are riveted into place.
Yes. So we have, and then scattered throughout the arm as well, we have little rivets that kind of hold things in place, but then also provide extra decoration to make it look like it is kind of actually bolted together. But we've got that look from the 1860s of how metal would have been constructed. How would they have done this technology?
Including on the underside of the arm. So, like, you turn your palm out, so you're looking at it, that underside of your arm.
Your forearm.
But the underside of your forearm. It's not sitting up here on the top.
Okay, fine. Continue.
Like, in the middle of everything. I'm trying to describe like where this seam is. You know what I'm saying? But so metal at the time also, you were not fastening with real tiny, delicate little machines, pieces. So what the chinks are actually tied together with is a long strip of, I think it's suede leather?
Yes, it is red leather lacing cord.
Which more reflects the ease of operation you would have needed to be able to do that fine tuning and have them all move together.
Yeah.
And it would have needed to be tight.
And it looks really elegant too.
It was.
I loved it.
Like whenever she turned her arm over, I was just like, whoa, that red lacing there, it was so cool.
Yeah, the first time I saw that, I think I almost fell off that chair.
I'm going to make a cosplay confession.
Okay.
That was a happy accident.
Yes.
Because
there are no mistakes, only happy accidents.
Exactly. So when we were doing this, this is our second iteration of the Winter Soldier, and we actually rebuilt pretty much everything from scratch this year for Winter Soldier. The only thing that stayed was the silver underskirt. Everything else is brand new this year. Awesome. And when we were rebuilding the arm, the first arm was made out of craft foam and duct tape, and it was double-sided duct tape that stuck to a silver stretch gymnastics arm, and it worked. It was okay. It was my first time ever doing armor, and it was all right, but it was really bulky. And when you're doing something that's 1860s, it just threw off the whole look because that's too much bulk. So I spent this whole last year being like, how can I do this arm? And how can I streamline it? And the answer we finally came up with was vinyl mounted with interfacing to the stretch, and that's probably going to get messed with again because heat made the interfacing
stretchy
kind of
fabric,
give
as
it away.
turns out, is evil.
Yes, it is.
But in order to get all of that on there, I had to construct it as a single piece, mount all the vinyl, sew up the side seam inside out, and then flip it, which meant there had to be a gap where the interfacing wasn't there so that I could stitch that.
Yeah.
Well, that left little flappy bits on the inside of that seam line. And I was like, well, how can I get these little flappy bits to lay down? And that was when I looked at them and grabbed a hole punch and grabbed some lacing and started going, hey, what would this look like?
It's a good choice.
Necessity is the mother of invention.
And hole punch was just great on that vinyl.
Yes, I was thinking about historic armor and how it was used and how they did tie things together when that idea occurred to me. But yeah, there was a little bit of happy accident creation in that.
And what was super cool too about the arm, I know we're just like harping on the arm, but like
it was
so
a cool arm.
Did a lot of iterations, and was that after Williamsburg that we came up with that too?
Yes.
When you got all that exposure to the Jamestown armor sets?
Oh yeah.
Yes, we took a trip out to the historic triangle, Jamestown, Yorktown, and Williamsburg at the end of March, and we got to see a lot of history out there, and including different ways they did armor back in the 16 and 1700s.
That was cool.
So that definitely helped with some of the inspiration.
Yeah,
there.
but what was really cool about the attachment system, having this strap, is like it looked like it was a real arm, even when she took off her bodice, so that you could see the corset cover, and the armor over it.
A real prosthetic.
It looked like
see where it's fitted.
Yeah, like it looked like a real prosthetic. It was super in fitting with our story of this is kind of steampunkish take rather than a Cold War take on the Bucky arm. That it was so cool.
And not even quite steampunk, because when you think about it, in the Civil War period, they're actually starting to do so much more with metal. Right. The first submarine comes out of the Civil War. The first ironclad battleships come out of the Civil War.
That's true. So it's the cutting edge of
the age of the railroad and everybody going, oh, iron.
So it's really in keeping with the way that Marvel takes an existing universe and goes, but what if also this crazy tech a la Tony Stark, or this weird magic a la Captain America, but it's science, but it's magic, but
it's science.
It's science. So
Magic science.
Really convenient science
yeah. So
that they can never quite replicate.
So, your stage performance.
oh yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man.
So, keeping up with, again, they took this all the way to the 9s, as if you can't tell already, with all the historical, like, research and accuracy. And tell me about the stage performance. Like, I saw what I saw, which I loved. Like, you guys came out, you did your cute dance, and then Iron Man and Cap were, you know, very angry.
I wouldn't touch Bucky's hand. Next thing you know, we're going at each other.
It's a really good choreography, and it comes from we
planned it a week ago.
no 2 weeks
than that.
Yeah,
2 weeks ago. Oh.
So it comes from we participate in a lot of events with the Denver Victorian Society.
The Victorian Society of Colorado.
The Victorian Society of Colorado.
yeah,
Apparently,
VSC.
I don't know any of these groups. The Victorian Society of Colorado, and so we do historical dances where we're, you know, in our not fusion garb, just our normal historical dresses. And one of our favorite dances is called the Spanish Waltz. And there's this move where you are, it helps you switch partners, and it helps you dance in a group as well. So we put our right arms in what's called a right hand star, and then you switch to a left hand star. So
And you spin around while you do this. You've got your
Yeah.
hands on each other, and you rotate around to a waltz beat. You know, the 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then rotate to the other hand.
I learned so much from you guys just listening right now. Like I learned a lot during judging, and I'm learning a lot even now. Just like,
So
this is
fun.
so cool.
But so the way we started it is, you know, Bucky and I, Captain America, enter the stage with Bucky on my arm, so like we're a dance partner. And then we turn and you give honor to your partner, so we curtsied because we're in dresses. And then Iron Man enters the stage a little later.
Yeah, it catches up, you know, same as the movie. They've gone off in their own thing, and Tony decides to go after it.
And so then, you know, we curtsy, give honor to each other, and then I offer my right arm to Iron Man, and we do
Because at first it's all great.
yeah, and so we do a little dance, and then, you know, Iron Man, I pass her off to
I
Bucky.
even dance with Bucky.
And then we do our right hand star, and it's when we go to do our left hand star, this was also a happy accident, when Bucky offers her metal arm in the left hand star is when Stark pulls back
away
and refuses to do the dance. So then I get between Bucky and Stark with my shield, which is a parasol. How did we forget that?
Oh yeah, it's a painted paper parasol, and it's possibly, I mean, I love the arm, but I think that's my favorite prop.
It's definitely the one that attracts the most attention.
It's just simplest, brilliant, fitting. It's got like an elegance to it.
like,
Again,
I want
Everyone wants one.
So then we move from the
We need
dance.
Nancy.
Yep. So then we move from the dance to the battle, where I put my shield in between Stark and Bucky. Stark goes for Bucky, and we do a spin around dance.
I get deflected by the shield, trying to go for Bucky.
I go for the arc reactors, Bucky,
yeah.
toss
Next
her
thing you know,
off.
I'm between both of them, and then Cap and I go at each other and throw each other across the stage.
And then the drama part.
We gotta add the drama direct from the movie, and so we didn't actually bother to do any audio recording. We figured people who know, people who don't know will just enjoy the way it looks. It's very cinematic on the stage. But we actually did the line, just, you know, mouthed the line of, "You don't deserve to carry that shield." And Cap looks at me and just drops it. And so then-
Delicately, because, you know, it's a paper parasol.
Yeah,
But
so drops it as
drops
like
it.
puts it on the ground with as much spite as you could do when setting down a paper parasol, and then walks off stage. And so Tony has to stumble after them and drag the shield off.
Because, you know, almost had the arc reactor torn. We did not actually tear the arc reactor. You know, that's a good thing for the future. If we can make a terrible arc reactor. Anyway, we'll think about that. But yeah, so spitefully putting down my shield, and then like grabbing for Bucky, and then we go off stage. Yeah,
With Velcro, we could do it.
we could do it. Ooh. All right, we'll think about that.
It was awesome. It was definitely like the performance to beat when you guys came on. You guys were like first up too.
We were terrified. We're like, this is the first time we've ever competed, and apparently we're the first in our category. And we're just standing in the hallway like,
Like we went after the little kids, and they were so cute because it was the kids, and now for the novices, and we were like, oh my god,
We're just like,
So
this is happening.
you guys have done a bunch of historical costumes and whatnot, but this was your first competition, right?
Correct.
Yes. Yeah. So they entered in the novice category, but they've done a lot of sewing in the past and whatnot. And again, all their choices here. This is why they stood out. Was that not only did they make really cool, like a cool mashup and pun, but they also made very smart choices with their fabric. They didn't just pick a fabric that looked good. They went with authenticity. I always do this at least once per episode. Authenticity, and just very well put together. And then the performance, just harkening to not just Civil War era dancing and all that stuff, but also the movie itself. I don't know. My heart was very happy.
And we were really surprised.
Yes.
We were like, what?
Yeah, I look over and Elise
so
looked like
straight.
she was gonna faint. I was forward in my chair going, what? And I look at Elise and she's all the way back in hers with just this.
I had very, very wide eyes.
I can't describe the look that was on her face, but it's she would kind of rescinded back into the ether and was just tripping
The judges played it so straight. About
we had no idea.
We had no idea.
Good, because I try so hard.
We could tell there was some interest, and that we probably didn't totally bomb it, other than the fact that the arm decided to explode right as we come out for the judging. It was just what if I fell apart now?
Isn't that how everything always works, though?
Yeah, we lost some of the chinks during judging.
Oh, and and in between, always at con, have your emergency sewing kit, because we ripped out part of Iron Man's trim twice. My hem came undone, and we had to sew up my hem after the judging, but before the performance. We had the wrong color thread, but you couldn't tell.
Oh, yeah. So what I'm doing today, I've had to dump myself
once you get out
twice.
of judging, doesn't matter.
Exactly. That was my biggest dilemma, and one of the things I learned competing for the first time was I was trying to choose a judging that was early enough in the day that we probably wouldn't have had any costume malfunctions yet, but late enough that we would be able to get into the con through security.
Very good. This convention takes a little while to get into. So based on that, you already kind of answered this next question that I want to give. You gave a little bit of advice of what would you give as advice for other beginners?
You want to start, Lacey?
Think about what you want to say as a story. Every choice that you make in design, it doesn't matter how you do it or anything. It's all about the why. It's about what do you want to say because when you dress up as a character, and it doesn't matter if it's a fusion, it doesn't matter if it's an original, it doesn't matter if it's from the story, from a
canon.
Canon. Thank you. It's video game music. But, you're still telling a story. When you put on that outfit, you're telling a story. So it's what choices do you want to say? What do you want to emphasize? Where can you kind of fudge details? Where do things need to be spot on to get that message across of who you are and what you're doing? So it's less about the craftsmanship, because that can come. You can try it again. You can redo it. It's about what design choices are you going to make right at the very beginning, because if you're not making the right design choices, everything else that follows is going to crumble, because that's your foundation.
It doesn't matter how neat your stitches are, how practiced you are at making this garment for the first time, or if you're a first time cosplayer, or even if you've been doing it forever, don't get jaded. What's your vision? What are you trying to do? Head vision.
But what is, I think it's, by far, I know for me, the biggest piece of cosplay is that I'm not doing this because I like to dress up. We have historical events we go to because I like to dress up. but no, I'm doing this because I love these characters. When I saw the Iron Man movie for the first time, it literally kind of changed my whole social circle in the sense of my life. I was not a comic book person before that. Nobody in my family ever got into it. So this thing is now Laura Rosie here lives with me.
Yeah.
And can vouch for the fact that I have a problem.
No, it's not a problem. I admire your comic book collection.
Thank you.
It's modest but good.
But and so these characters, you meet them and they stick with you for a reason. And so the biggest thing is how do I bring this character to life in whatever way I'm doing it, whether it's in an alternate universe or a historical interpretation or a literal interpretation. or one like I'm getting as close as I can because I've never made this before and I don't know what I'm doing, which is definitely a thing that happens. And it's how do I make this character? What elements need to be there to tie it together?
Can I switch tracks and talk about my favorite thing, the linen? Yes. Go for it. So I shame my foremothers whenever I'm in historical garb because
Same.
I will lift my skirts to show off my historical underwear to passersby.
Well, because people are like, you have a hoop and a corset.
And we're like, sure, let me show you.
No,
And
that was also really cool. They were like, check out, we made this stuff underneath. And I was like, oh my gosh. So essentially they made their historical underwear, and that is freaking fantastic.
and and it gives you the silhouette that you want. Like, if you want a historical silhouette, you gotta wear the underwear.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
But the best discovery I think we ever made about historical costuming is that linen underclothes. So you wear a shift, and if you're not familiar with that, it basically looks like a white nightie, but it's what you wore as your underwear because, when you sweat...
It's the OG white nightie.
It's the OG white nightie, and when you sweat in it, you don't get all of your nasty body fluids on your pretty outer garment because that's really hard to wash.
Yeah, it's not like you had a washing machine. Yeah, you cannot put.
And even if you did have a washing machine, like, it's got a lot of delicate embroidery.
you can't
and
put
just,
that much
you can't,
trim in a washing machine.
and you
It's not
can't
gonna be
put that much strain when you wash it even by hand. So you wear your shift to keep your clothes clean from the inside. But if you make it out of linen, it's like a life changer. Soft linen. We've done the scratchy linen. That was a mistake.
You've done this.
I have.
And
It was
we
a
warned
mistake.
you.
Did warn me. I chose my own doom. But it's so you make your underclothes out of this linen, and it acts like a natural air conditioner where when you sweat and it dries, it cools you down.
Yeah, it wicks.
And so it wicks. And so when passersby are like, aren't you hot in that? You're like, actually, I'm kind of sweaty under here, but you can't smell me and I'm comfortable.
Yeah.
And the other thing, I know...
So basically, linen's your friend.
Linen is
your
great.
friend.
And when you're new and you don't have the opportunity to make all of your own historical undergarments, like you don't quite have it together to make your own corset, make your own hoops.
But especially for beginner category, they did not have to do that.
Yeah, no, we just had this from our previous experience in historical cosplay, but the difference that it makes when you wear a corset that's custom made for you. Because for a couple of years now, I've been wearing a corset that Elise made that was originally made for another person, for a model in a fashion show, and I wore it because it was near my size, and then we recently made me a corset fitted to my measurements, a Edwardian style. Was it 1900s?
Yeah, it's about a 1902 corset.
About a 1902 corset.
Wow.
But it doesn't really matter the year. The point was, when you have the means to make those historical undergarments to your own measurements, like, we wore those corsets for 16 hours yesterday. And I wasn't in pain. I wasn't uncomfortable. No. It was the kind of discomfort that comes from, like, when you have to wear real pants all day.
Or like a bra that's like a little on the tight side, just a little bit. So you take it off and you got like the marks on your skin that's like, the strap was here.
Yeah, or like how you would always rather be wearing sweatpants or your comfy jammy pants, but it's okay that you have to wear real clothes sometimes. That's how it felt.
Yeah.
16 hours in this corset, but because it was fitted to me, it just felt like wearing I'd rather be in my sweats, but
By far and away, the worst part of wearing everything we were wearing for 16 hours yesterday was the fact that we tied all of our shopping to our lacing under our hoops, and we were carrying that around on our hips all day.
I actually have bruises on my hips from carrying all of our pockets on my hips.
Bought so many books yesterday.
I bought a lot of books. I brought a book I wasn't sure how long we'd be backstage, so it was a hardcover copy of The Children of Hurin from the library, and it was in my under pocket, tied to a ribbon under my hoop.
And for a second there, I thought I was an idiot and that I was too lazy because I didn't tie the things I purchased. One was like this large leather journal and then a couple of comic books. And I was like, I can't really get to my pockets very well, so I'm going to tie them to my corset string. Like a little off to the side, but also kind of hanging in the front. It was kind of a pain. And I now have no bruises.
On your hips.
At all.
Yeah.
So, apparently, I made the better choice.
Only a little bit of bruising. It was just from the weight of, everything I bought.
I'm good over here.
Yeah. No, pockets.
Yes.
If you can design a pocket. So we had pockets in our overskirts, and it was because, sorry, I'm doing a lot of talking about things that Elise has taught me, but
she's a very good spokesperson, and I'm going to let her keep going.
So in our 1864 style skirts, so you have a hoop skirt, And so in your outer layer of skirt, you can design a pocket into the seam, and you can design it so what Elise will do is put her phone on the fabric, cut it out so that you know your phone fits in it. I carried my water bottle around in that pocket all day, so we had outer pockets, but then we also cheated and used our 1700s pockets, which are more like big pouches that you thread onto a ribbon.
They're human saddlebags.
They're human saddlebags, and so in our 1700s clothes, because you don't have a hoop like that underneath, you tie the pockets over your corset, and then
stays
over your stays. Excuse me. You tie the. Oh, thank you. Elise is wearing one right now in her current.
We're getting a demo.
We're getting a demo here, but so you tie the pockets over your stays, and then your petticoats and your overskirt have a slit in the seam, so you can reach your pocket, and you don't have to do any unladylike hiking of your skirt. It's all
secret pockets.
Secret pockets. Thank you so much. So if you have the ability to design pockets, and always, how are you going to go to the bathroom? Always remember that.
That one can never be emphasized enough.
It's like, my brother was taking some sort of costume design 101 class in college, and number one rule of costume design is how are you, or the actor, or whoever, how do they go to the bathroom? Number two rule is pockets. So
I think that's really fair. So for the podcast, at the end, we usually do a thing called cosplay horror stories. So it's usually just sharing horror stories, whether it's during the crafting or an at convention thing. What are your cosplay horror stories?
Leia, oh no. Oh. You want to talk about Leia?
Can you talk about Leia?
Do you need Laura to talk about Leia for you?
No, I can talk about Leia. So last year we did historical Star Wars, and we matched up the canon timeline of the different movies to actual history. So we started Phantom Menace in 1860, and then we did New Hope in 1894. Is it 94? I might not remember my years correctly, so
around 1890.
It's in the 1890s. And then Force Awakens then takes place in the 1920s, is essentially how this works out. So we did Amidala, Leia, and Rey from the respective time periods. And Leia had this beautiful white silk dress that had a train.
And the thing about this silk, some silk can take water, some really can't. And we tested this silk before we committed to it to see if we could wash it. The answer was, if you got this thing wet,
it changed.
It became like a different fabric. It just looked completely, it went from looking like this fine, delicate white wedding silk to like, this came off the bargain row at Michael's. Like, not that there's anything wrong with bargain shopping. I've gotten some pretty good stuff from Michael's, but like, you know what I mean.
It's like questionable fabric where you're like,
that one, like, this is going to be terrible. It's going to rip as soon as it sees a needle. Like, it looks like that stuff.
Yeah.
It also changed textures really extensively. It went from, I'm going to guess because it lost starch, essentially, that was already in the bowl, and then when it got washed.
Was it organza? Was that it?
No, it's a taffeta.
Oh, it's taffeta. Okay,
so it loses a lot of its stiffness. So it has a train, and we were wearing it to Denver Comic Con, and it's a busy con and everything, and so I was like, okay, let's think ahead, let's make a system so the train can pin up, so that way people don't step on it. And we did. We had it trained, we had it pinned up. It had a couple of little button loops where you just have the loop and it goes up on the button and it works out fine.
Cool.
And
it's cute.
It was super cute.
It looks cute when it's trained up and down.
It looked great.
We used it on other materials and other styles before. And this button system, so
everything seemed fine, and we got Laura Stellar was the one wearing it, and we got her dress that day, and I think we got her corset a lot tighter than we had during fitting, and the waistband was a little bit bigger than we'd realized. And when she was trying it on, I checked it and I was like, well, I think it's still fine. I think it's still off the floor.
And it was off the floor.
It just started to drag on her hips a little bit as we were walking, and I didn't notice. And that
and then the thing that was the kicker is that it didn't just start to drag a little bit, is it managed to flip a piece of the white under. We had like a whole layer cake worth of
petticoats underneath there.
And ruffles underneath this thing to take the dirt. And then of course it finds a way
because you can wash your petticoats
itself over.
So that was the year that the line to get into Denver Comic Con, that was Saturday morning 2017. the line was outdoors, and it took, what, 2 hours?
Oh, yeah.
It was about
easy.
2.5 hours to get inside. And we were outside in 90-degree weather the whole time, and standing on asphalt and sidewalk. And guess what? You can't get asphalt sidewalk dirt out of a silk skirt.
Oh no!
So it dragged
and it turns black is the other fun
about
one.
2 feet up from the hem because it had flipped under. And we had all of these miles of ruffles that were removable to take all that dirt. It would have been far better if we would have left it down as a train and had her drag it through the street.
Oh
Yep.
man!
Then pin it up. Yeah.
Yep.
I have yet to been able to find something that will clean that out.
It was like we had to find a corner and
So I could sit and cry.
and mourn
Have a bit of a
Leia.
breakdown.
And usually we will sometimes do our own photo shoots we'll just go neighborhood places and take pictures before we go to cons.
Yeah.
And we hadn't had time that year.
We'd run out of time,
we hadn't done a photo shoot for Leia.
Oh,
And so we
no.
had no pictures of her in her
I have-
perfect
We have
condition.
one really good
We
sign
had-
for Leia. We can get some pictures eventually.
We have
We'll remember
the
to do
progress
that someday.
pictures without hair and makeup when I'd finished the dress, and I just tossed her outside in my backyard and took a couple of shots. But that's all we really
that
got
was a
before it was
tragedy.
damaged. So yeah, I'm
Leia.
still probably not over Leia.
So sad.
We'll never
so
be over
sad.
Leia. We'll be like
so-
90 in our rocking chairs going, remember that time about
So
Leia?
the caveat for this year is, besides doing the Civil War Avengers for the actual competition Friday, we did the American Goddesses, which was an Edwardian group. And we were the statues of liberty, justice, and freedom.
That's so cool.
We were super
was
cool looking.
awesome.
It was awesome.
I had an eagle.
She had a
on my
10-inch
head.
eagle on her head.
10-inch
That's freedom.
frozen eagle on my head.
Freedom.
Freedom.
Freedom, victorious, and war and peace, technically. It's the statue that's on top of the Capitol building in D.C.
So, but the lesson that I learned, because when we were designing these, I knew we were going to wear them at DCC, and it's like, as much of a fabric snob as I like to be, because I come from a historical fashion background, and you do tend to use things like real silk and everything, I was not willing to buy silk for a dress that we're going to wear at Comic-Con, because I was like, I'm not.
Never again.
I learned that lesson. We're doing Edwardian. Edwardians frequently still have small trains. I'm not going to make the same
even though
mistake
she
twice.
designed it so that we could loop our trains up over our arm and we could carry them like when
Which
we were
we
outside.
did when
and
we were
did.
outside. So none of those dresses took damage this year. I learned my lesson, but I did make
yeah.
sure that they were going to be easily washable fabrics. So I learned a very important lesson there.
Yeah. Okay.
You guys
Do you
have
have a
cosplay
horror
horror
story?
stories?
I'm trying to think. I don't think I have any horror stories really
I
on
might-
stuff that we've worked on.
I have my improper use of a Dremel story.
That one's pretty good. I did. There's one I'm working on right now that I tried to use a pickaxe as a stand while I was molding some Worbla. It didn't work. Pickaxe wasn't stable enough. The
She like jammed
rule of
it. So
my
she jammed
people
it.
betrayed me.
She jammed it between like a box and
At a Yeti cooler.
a Yeti cooler in a garage. Like this would keep it upright.
I would like to just
This is the first time I've used Worbla, by the way.
I was not present for this.
Yeah, she was like in a garage, in a friend's garage, crafting.
For like 4 straight days and nights, just putting together. I did a Cosmic Ghost Rider. It's what I'm wearing today. And I was trying to get the helmet. And, oh man. And so I tried to do that. And then burnt myself with the heat gun. That was good. Actually, it was with the Worbla. Not really even the heat gun. Didn't even touch the gun.
Yeah.
It was
Warbler
got
gets
the
toasty.
Worbla.
Toasty,
Too
toasty
hot.
hot.
Too hot. Whoopsies. But I think that's probably the almost killing myself with a pickaxe is pretty good.
Your great great grandpa Joe would be ashamed.
Look, man, great grandpa Joe died because of being in the mines too long with a pickaxe. So who knows? Maybe he would have been like, "You tell that pickaxe." I don't know what great grandpa Joe was about.
So my improper use of a Dremel story is, so I was making my Rey staff because I was, for our historical Star Wars, I was 1920s Rey, which was lovely, by the way. We had like a flapper style dress, not with like the ruffles, but the silhouette.
Okay.
And I had my sashes, crossing sashes that she has that go up the shoulders, and we had a 20s style hat that looked like a rebel helmet with the appliques on the side. It was so
cool.
cute. And so I was making my staff, And I decided to go, and we're really fabric people, or Elise is a fabric people.
Yes, I am. I don't do
Elise is a fabric people. And so basically she goes, I take the bulk of the design for the costumes and y'all figure out your props. And we went, all right. And so I'm in charge of looking up a tutorial, figuring out how to build this ray staff. And I
just had to find an old lettering medal from high school so that I could have Leia's, because we did her award ceremony dress, and then I was done with props.
Rude.
And then poor Laura Rosie over here.
And so I didn't go exactly movie accurate, but her staff has these it's like built together out of scrap metal, and so it has these cool pieces attached to it. And so I found a tutorial that was like, use PVC pipe and bore a hole in just this plastic piping you can get from your local hardware store. And so I was, doing pretty well until I was using for the knobby part at the top, I was using an acrylic shower knob that I got at the hardware store. And my instructions were to bore a hole in the middle. Now, I'm a poor lady. I was working on my parents' front steps using my dad's...
You had to bore it because we needed to be able to prove it was hollow for prop check.
No. I needed to make it hollow so that it would slide over the PVC pipe and I could glue it in place, because it wasn't on the top. It wasn't like a cap. It was on the staff.
Gotcha.
So I had to drill a hole in it. So I had my dad's borrowed Dremel and the attachments thereof. And I'd already made 3 trips to the hardware store, like you do, or to the sewing store or the craft store, where you're like, and I need this other thing, and I need this other thing. Yeah, no more. We have so much spray paint stashed in our porch closet. So I have this Dremel, and I have this tiny attachment that's it is made for boring. It's not made for boring a hole in an acrylic doorknob.
That will melt.
No, I'm getting there. So I was wearing goggles and safety mask over my nose and mouth.
Safety first.
So safety first, sort of. And so I start using this attachment, and it just goes with this loud, angry sound in the acrylic. So I pull it back and I look at it, and I'm like, okay. And I keep going anyway, because, I can't afford whatever proper attachment I need. And I'm a procrastinator, and con is in 3 days. And so I keep going. And from the heat of the Dremel spinning, a Dremel is a really powerful tool. And so as it's spinning, it melts the acrylic. And so I just have this really cool looking star of melted acrylic stuck to the Dremel attachment. And then it's melting at these high heats, just on the front porch.
That is so scary.
It was really dangerous, and my father would be ashamed.
Do not try this at home, kids.
Do not improperly use a Dremel or try to mold Warbler on a pickaxe. Get the tool that you need for the job.
Get yourself a model head and try and shape off of that for the love of all that is good, and make sure it's a big model head. Otherwise you end up having 2 dogs that you don't need.
Do your research about what kind of tools you will need to make your prop and or costume, and
do it in the safest way possible.
And if you're like me and it's what do you mean I need a Dremel for this? I can't afford a Dremel. Go find a different tutorial where you don't need a Dremel. And I was a fool.
I mean, you can do it my way, which is, I know that I need a heat gun, and I know that is how you shape Warbler, but I know I could probably also do it with a hairdryer.
Laura.
Anyway, YOLO. I did not wear safety goggles. Don't be me.
Dude.
I'm a terrible role model. I'm a teacher. Oh, God.
We already had one blindness scare with you this year.
You stop with the...
Do not blind yourself with not wearing your safety goggles.
Ghost Rider, man.
I know. It's for the
I didn't have safety goggles.
So along the lines of safety first, I'm going to share one too. All right?
Good.
Okay.
Yes.
So this one I haven't shared on the podcast yet, which I'm surprised I haven't, because it's sitting right here on my thumb. I have a lovely,
good one.
Oh,
That's
very thick and lovely scar. I let it actually heal this way because the doctor is like, oh, if you just leave it be, it'll be fine and it'll heal on its own. And I was like, really? He's like, yeah, if you do stitches, it'll be thinner. But I'm like, I don't believe you. And so I left it alone. So what happened? How I got this scar? I got feeling mostly back in the top of my thumb, but So one time I was working on a gun prop commission, and I was doing layered wood because my MO for prop making is wood. I love having a wood-based prop. I love working with soft materials, or like soft woods like pine and poplar. They just speak to me. And so this person wanted me to make a gun for them out of wood, and so I was cutting out the pieces, trying to do a layered thing, and had 3 pieces that were cut exactly the same. So here's another safety first thing. Along with making sure that you're wearing all the right materials and whatnot, don't get into a groove. Always be alert of what you're doing.
Yeah.
I cut out the first piece, done, fine. Cut out the second piece, done, fine. Cut out third, oh shoot! I cut myself on a bandsaw.
Oh no!
You still have a finger. That's
I still have my finger. Yes. So I cut my thumb and I immediately just grab onto it, and I did not let go of it for a long time afterwards.
Which is actually the wisest thing to do.
Yeah.
Like that was the right move.
Sort of actually, medical care.
So I have also since learned that when it comes to fight or flight, I am a flight person. So the first thing I wanted to do was run away, but I knew I needed to turn the machine off too, because I use my father-in-law's tools for a lot of the stuff that I work on, and I try to make sure that, like, my number one thing is to make sure that I take good care of his stuff. So I go, okay, first thing first, turn off the machine. I turn it off, and then I look, I'm like, okay, there's no blood on the machine. The blood's in my hand, okay.
That's where the blood is supposed to be.
Yeah.
Me.
He's got a work sink. So this is in their my in-laws' garage, and there's a work sink inside.
Okay.
So I have to go from inside the garage to inside to the work sink, and so I'm standing at the door doing this little dance, trying to figure out how I'm going to open up the door to the garage. Use the door handle while I'm holding my thumb. So eventually I figured I'd also not drip blood on things because I'm like so afraid of getting blood on stuff at this moment. My brain was doing some really weird stuff.
It does that.
Shock does some stuff to you.
I was like, don't get blood on anything. It's like, Mercedes, your thumb is cut open. Just get blood on whatever. Nobody cares. So I carefully open up the door and I run inside and I'm like, maybe it's not so bad. I get the water on. And I'm like, maybe it's not so bad. And I open up my hand and I look at it for a half second. I'm like, yeah, it's pretty bad.
Like down to the bone bad? Or?
The X-ray said that it didn't get all the way down to the bone, at least. He said it came close.
More of an anatomy lesson than you were looking for, though.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes, it was definitely. So I'm putting it under cold water because cold water helps stop bleeding and all that stuff. So I was like trying to use that, and I was like, this is not going to work. So I yell out for my mother-in-law. I go, Mary. Because I knew she was home. I think she was the only one home that day. And I hear her off in the distance, oh, is the dishwasher done? Because it had started beeping. And I was like, no, I need to go to the hospital. And you just hear her kind of pause. And she told me that she was mentally preparing herself to go find my finger in the garage.
It's like, this is my duty. This is my daughter-in-law. I must find her detached finger.
She was ready, and so she comes over, she's like, are you okay? And I was like, my thumb's right here, I promise.
It's still attached.
But I need to go to the hospital. So we went. I squeezed my thumb so hard that whole time that my other fingers were aching. But when I got there, we went to an Instacare. So not the ER, but they had to make sure that they could take care of it.
Yeah.
So they made me let go, and I was like, I don't want to let go of my thumb. They made me let go so they could check and make sure, and turns out it was fine. And I could have gotten stitches, but he told me it would heal on its own, and I did not believe him. So,
well,
it did heal on its own, and I have a lovely scar to remind myself: don't get in a groove.
Yep.
Don't go to the zone.
And another safety tip is if you get a piece of something, if you cut yourself and there's something embedded in an important place and it looks like it's a deep cut, leave it.
Yes.
Leave it in.
Don't take it out.
Keep the blood in your body. Keep the object in your body.
To keep the blood in your body.
Yeah, it's holding your blood for you right now.
Immediately seek professional medical help. But clutching your thumb to not bleed profusely and keep the broken object, immediately seek a medical professional, but give yourself the best first aid you can as you before you get there.
Yeah, know the risks of what you're working with. I burnt my finger trying to work on that Warbler, but did I know what I was getting into? Yes. Well, I hadn't worked with Warbler, but I knew that it's a heat gun. this is a factor. I
It's
had
probably
some gloves
going to
on
be
hand.
a burning factor.
I was like, I had gloves on hand, and I was like, somebody told me that it doesn't get too bad, so I'm going to go ahead and try it barehanded first, so I don't get like pieces of the glove stuck to it, which did end up happening. So there's a little bit of pink in that helmet, but painted anyway. But so like I, at least know like what the risk is of the tool that you're using, so that so maybe you at least have something nearby that you can compensate with if you need it.
You have a big spinning blade. Keep your fingers away from it.
Well, at least when we're sewing, it's like, okay, we've all sacrificed blood to the outfit with
on needles,
pins, it's like, well, it's
sacrifice to the cosplay gods.
And it's
if you don't bleed on it, it's not done.
Yeah, and it hurts and it's awful, but it's at least it's just like a pin is fine, but saws, man.
Yeah, that's good.
So thank you guys so much for your time. Let's do one more shout out of your names and where to find you on social media. So if people want to follow you guys, I definitely do, because your work is amazing.
We appreciate it.
But yeah, so you guys want to go ahead and repeat essentially like where to find you on social media and all
You
that?
go first this time.
All right.
Give them the official rundown on the Facebook.
So my name is Elise, and I am the head of Tea Time Productions, which is TTEA Time Productions, and that's where you can find us on Facebook, which is our only social media at the moment, but that might change shortly.
We are small. We need to begin our expansion, and this is a helpful way to do it.
Yeah.
So, we need a Twitter. We can obtain a Twitter.
Keep
there
on
might be a
lookout on the
Twitter.
Facebook page to see if maybe we get it.
There you go. Stay tuned.
And so again, I'm Laura, better known online as Stellar. I don't have any kind of official cosplay blog because my definition of cosplay is tag along with these guys or scream YOLO and end up in my friend's garage for 3 days inhaling spray paint, confusing myself. But you can find me on Tumblr at least at it's stellarluna.tumblr, but the Stellar has 3 R's in it because somebody already took Stellar Luna with 1 R. So that's where you can find me online. I also run a fairly popular shipping blog with a friend of mine, but you'll have to sleuth a little harder to get that one.
Are you going
out
to
of
tell
me.
the people the ship? Or are you going to keep that a secret?
They'll figure it out.
All right.
Who here likes the Punisher? But and then I also have I'm working on a Ghost Rider fan comic, which does technically have its own blog, and that one is also Tumblr. It's Ghost Rider, but Rider is spelled RIDYR. So if anybody wants to be the one follower for that account to come check out my in progress ghosty thing. That's my one of my other comic hero passions, so that's where you can find me on the interwebs.
Oh man, I've heard about your ghosty fan comic.
It's gonna be good stuff.
Oh man, so Stellar and I are writers actually more than craftspeople.
Oh yeah,
That's
LB
why,
Writer, same spelling. That'd be my actual writing website. I forget that exists.
yeah.
Awesome.
And so and that's why we team up with Elise for Tea Time Productions, because she's really cloth is her medium, and
she's the mastermind.
Yeah, and so at our writing sessions, when Laura leans forward and is like, "Can I tell you this thing?" and I'm like, "All right, I'm in for this ride." And she told me her concept for her Ghost Rider fan comic, and stay tuned, y'all. Come ride with the Ghost Rider. This is gonna be some good stuff. I'm putting the pressure on you to
Get it
for
done
the people.
I'm gonna finish this.
I'm
this
on
one
board.
fic. I do a lot of original writing too.
Yeah.
Rose and I are also going to be published in Z Publishing's Emerging Writers Colorado edition sometime here in the next couple of months. We're actually still waiting on them to email us with edits, so that's another TBA. But so we float around on the internet doing writing, and I definitely have been ficking, and
You have.
now I'm trying to script a comic book and screaming on the inside because what am I going to do when I script it? I can't draw.
What, you get an artist? We're at the Comic-Con. Anyway, so I'm Laura also. Laura Rosie. You can find me online at L Rose Writes, WRITES, and I'm on Twitter and I'm on Tumblr. And a lot of it is about writing, but there's definitely some cosplay nonsense going on in there too. And a lot of stuff
anecdotes about the weird stuff that happens in our household.
Yeah, we have cats. There's some cat stories.
Vengeance.
Laura and I live in the same house with another roommate, so Elise gets to not be part of that nonsense. But yeah, and so and there's a lot of helpful resources that I put up for writing that's really applicable to cosplay, I think, because it's back to what Elise was talking about with world building and knowing what you're about and why.
Yeah.
And it all comes back to, so it all interconnects. So yeah, again, you can find us as a unit at Tea Time Productions. That's with 2 T's at the beginning. And then you can find me at L Rose Writes.
And LB Writer, RIDYR.
And I don't have an actual online handle, so I'm just from Tea Time Productions.
Yeah, this is what you do.
You're the heart and soul of Tea Time Productions.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
The genius.
Yep.
Yes, very much so.
Thank you.
Thank you guys again for.
Thank you. It was really an honor to be invited. We're new at this whole competition, this whole getting in the spotlight thing. We just have been doing this for love, but it's really amazing to have someone like you who's so established be like, come on my podcast.
You guys are amazing. Your love showed through on everything. For listeners, if you want to submit your own cosplay horror stories, we will read them at the end of our normal episodes. We've already received quite a few that I've super enjoyed, and keep an ear out for yours. So you can email us at cosplaystitchandseam@gmail.com, or you can go to cosplaystitchandseam.com and fill out the online form there, and you can also send us suggestions, topic suggestions, things that you just want us to talk about, or say hi. I like hearing hello from people now and then. It's fun. And that's it. At this moment, usually Pannon has some really awful pun about stitching and seaming, and I'm bad at it. So
okay, but we're Avengers Civil War, but we have our pun.
Yes, this
right
whole
here.
episode has been the pun. So I will do our little send-off. Thanks, guys. Thank you for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed that and giggled along with us with our cosplay horror stories there at the end. Remember, next week we will be starting our cosplay contest series, and let us know if you have any questions. You know where to find us. We know where to find you. No, we don't. No, we don't.
Oh my gosh.
We will find you.
The
The jackalope! Oh no!
That's not the episode yet. Next week's episode, jackalopes.
The jackalope is coming.
The jackalope is coming. See you guys next week.